Nora's small stockroom. "I don't think there's been any magic in her life lately. What'll you do about her, Nora? She seems fragile." Nora frowned. She'd moved to Miracle Springs in search of peace and privacy. She hadn't wanted a single responsibility beyond her tiny house and her bookstore. She hadn't wanted pets or close friends. She hadn't wanted a lover. She refused to join a place of worship or participate in charity events. She didn't sponsor children's athletic teams, enter bake-offs, or take sides in local politics. She didn't seek anyone's company. Despite this, people sought hers. They came looking for her. People with different backgrounds, different skin colors, and different accents. People from all over the globe brought her their stories. They all carried a burden they couldn't put down, no matter how much they wanted to be free from its weight. These weary souls came to her, the bookseller known to the locals as the beautiful burned woman, or the bibliotherapist with the scars, in search of relief. Sometimes these people liked Nora. Sometimes they didn't. But they all felt at home in Miracle Books. It was almost impossible not to. Walking through the bookshop was like falling in love for the very first time. New customers would enter the store and hesitate, fearing the only offerings would be New Age titles and crystals. This was a reasonable concern in a town built upon the premise of healing, but Miracle Books had something for everyone. They just didn't always know how to find it. Nora had never bathed in the famed mineral baths of Miracle Springs, so she couldn't tell her customers that the waters possessed restorative powers. She believed books had the power to heal. She believed that carefully chosen words and well-crafted phrases could gift readers with the ability to let a painful past go, to turn the page and start a fresh chapter in their lives. Because she believed that every story had something to offer, Nora's store was stuffed with books of every format and genre. The latest best-selling novels in their glossy dust jackets shared shelf space with dog-eared paperbacks. Other shelves held rare first editions, coveted signed editions, and antique leather-bound books. There were books in all conditions, books for all ages, books to satisfy every need, every wish. There was much to see in the warren of shelves and the cornucopia of books for sale, so Nora let her customers wander undisturbed. In fact, she encouraged them to become lost in the labyrinth of colorful spines, to pull down books and read blurbs, to touch one of the many shelf enhancers. Nora had dubbed these knickknacks shelf enhancers before Miracle Books was up and running. Back when she was still assembling her initial inventory, she'd been rummaging through a box of books at the flea market when she'd come across a pair of bronze owl bookends. They weren't in perfect shape. There was minor flaking to the bronze, undoubtedly due to age. Nora liked the owls despite their flaws. Their gaze was stern, and their sharp talons curled protectively over a stack of thick tomes. "If you buy the set of Nancy Drews, I'll give you a discount on the owls," the vendor had said to Nora while overtly studying her burn scars. Nora wasn't used to negotiating, but she knew she had to buy every book at the lowest price if she wanted her business to succeed. She turned the bookends over in her hands and thought of how much more interesting her future store would be if her shelves were enhanced by unique vintage items. And then she'd looked the vendor straight in the eye and started haggling. The shelf enhancers were impulse buys for locals and visitors alike. As Nora moved deeper into the stacks, heading for the stockroom, she noticed some of her recent additions. She walked by a wooden mortar filled with crushed lavender, a marble and brass letter holder, a picture frame in pink lucite, a Victorian child's porcelain tea set, and an Art Nouveau trumpet vase. Those were just the treasures in the contemporary romance section. Nora rounded the corner of a bookcase crammed with pulp fiction novels and heard the loud clang of brass bells smacking wood. The bells, which had once been attached to a horse harness, now hung from a strip of leather behind Nora's front door. The clanging sound meant that her friends had left Miracle Books. Nora was alone with her books and the strange girl. She found the girl curled among layers of bubble wrap and packing paper. She looked like an undernourished Goldilocks who'd passed out after partying too hard. Nora studied the stranger in the dim light of the stockroom's single bulb. Though her slim figure and pallid skin made her seem childlike, Nora guessed that she was closer to 20 than 10. "What am I supposed to do with you?" she murmured under her breath. Despite Nora's intention to live an uncomplicated life in Miracle Springs, she'd recently become friends with 3 remarkable women. Together, they'd formed the secret book and Scone Society.